Once again, hello and welcome to WestMusings, 10-minute museum talks being provided to you by the Western Museums Association here this evening at the Church History Museum in Salt Lake City. We've been listening to three other speakers earlier this morning, Scott Stullen, Colin Dillenschneider, or this evening, and James Pepper Henry. We are now in for a big treat. Coming to our stage this evening, world champion, roller derby queen, coming straight off the tracks with a championship record season. She also happens to be the manager of collections for the Church History Museum here in Salt Lake City and a proud member of the Church of Latter-day Saints. I introduce you to Carrie Snow.
Good evening. I'm not a world champion. We just beat all the other leagues in the state. Nothing big. I am here to talk to you about roller derby, much to my boss's delight, because he doesn't want someone in sequin pants representing his institution. And what it has in common with museums, and I'm sure you're guessing an awful lot because I know this is how you all go into your galleries every day. So what I wanted to talk to you about was the similarities of roller derby and museums and how there is a birth, a heyday, a death, and then a rebirth and renaissance, so to speak. So here we go. So when people ask me, I tell people I play roller derby, they say one of three things. I used to watch that back in the day. Did you see that episode of whatever TV show where she played roller derby? And don't you guys just beat the crud out of each other for an hour? And to answer those questions, that's really cool that you saw it back then. No, I didn't see those TV episodes. I was too busy playing roller derby. And no, we actually have rules so we don't kill each other now. But I promise I can start taking swings if you'd like. So I wanted to start off with a brief history. Roller derby was developed by this man, Leo Seltzer, and he decided in the 1930s to combine marathon dancing, cheap roller skates, and people's desperate need for cash. So what he would do is he would stage these races on this bank track where it kind of tilts inward, and the equivalent distance from like LA to New York, and they would go. And it didn't do too well because he found that people after skating hundreds of miles tended to collapse and or drop dead. Just something for you all to think about how you work your staffs. So what he decided to do, and it was all male, he decided to take something from the marathon dancing where he had them partner with couples, male and female, and they took chances, and it was kind of a race. And I know it sounds really quaint and whatnot, and you wonder, where did the violence come in? And it came in with this woman, Josephine Ma Bogash. She would skate with her son, Billy. It was up there in the upper left corner. What made her unique is she skated with a hat pin, and she would poke people to get them out of her way. So the bank track, combined with the hat pin poking, combined with exhaustion, ensured that people would fly off the track into the audience's lap. Equal a hit. I mean, something else for you to think about. So then it started this great thing of the rivalries that you guys all saw in the 1970s. This is the blonde bomber, Joni Weston, and Anna Cavallo, the two roller derby queens in the heyday of roller derby. And it got off to a great start in the 50s and 60s with television because all you needed to make to broadcast roller derby was one single boom camera and a relatively controlled lighting situation. It didn't take place outdoors like baseball, football, anything like that. So it was a big hit. And then when it started where you could actually tape your programs and stick them in anywhere, it was an even bigger hit because you didn't have to do roller derby in a sequential order like a football season or baseball season. But as those other sports decided that they wanted to do TV contracts because they were like pretty lucrative, people decided I'd rather go watch football or baseball, and I'm a Red Sox fan, so I totally understand. roller derby started to be relegated to really odd times at night and sort of died. And by the 1990s, they tried to revive it with hairbands, big hair, spandex, figure-8 tracks, and even an alligator pit. And I found this little clip. Oh, sorry. And it's like they played it, and they would play it at like 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I think we can all agree that once your programming is relegated to that time of day, you're pretty much dead. And that jumps us to 2001, when a man named Dan Policarpo decided, with the help of a homemade flyer, to start up roller derby again in Austin, Texas. And he gathered a group of women, and he divided them up into teams, and they loved it, and they had $1,500, and they were about to start this bout and relaunch this sport and make the world a better place, and Dan disappeared with the cash. Watch your funding sources. So what the ladies did is they didn't give up. They really liked to play. And so they kept playing and practicing. The problem was there was one tiny problem. No one knew how to play roller derby. Kind of a big issue. So they grabbed a hold of some old ESPN footage and figured it out. But they still didn't get some details right. So this is the rebirth process and sort of the thing. They knew there were penalties, but they didn't know what to do with them, so they had the penalty wheel. If you've ever seen Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, it's a lot like the wheel in there where you bust a deal, you face the wheel. It says like, go back, spend 2 minutes in the box, kiss a fan, all sorts of things. And then that really let the ladies, because they were doing well and they were garnering attention, they wore crazy outfits. They got a lot of fame, they got a lot of cash, and this starts the first schism. And this is one of the first lessons that roller derby had to learn in order to survive. They wanted, some people, at this point they were still skating on that bank track, but the problem was that bank track was really, really hard to maintain, and it could bankrupt a league pretty quickly. So part of the ladies wanted to skate on a flat track because they said, we can get this out to more people. You can put up a flat track in a gym, in a cultural center, in a museum. That'd be super awesome, by the way. I'd love to do that. Anybody who wants to do that, give me a call. And it was pretty cheap. You could put it anywhere. And so part of the girls said, no, we're going to go. And so what was born was the Women's Flat Track Derby Association, what we affectionately call WFTDA. But this is the first step. They invested in the longevity of the sport. And this group of people established rules for conduct, for gameplay, for how to become officials, how to become a skater. I have to pass a written exam and be able to skate a certain number of laps and take a hit. I'm qualified to be a derby girl. There's a test involved, folks. There's not a test to become a registrar. Just want to get that out there. So because of them, roller derby got off to a great start, and by 2004, flat track roller derby took off. And this is part of that resurgence and revival because they invested in the sport. The second way they invested, so by 2013, we're pretty legit. We've got our own news network. We've got a movie. We've got a reality show. We've got cottage industry. And it's pretty awesome. We've invested in the sport. The second way we invest is in the community that we support and in the skaters. So most of your skaters that skate do it for free. We actually pay money. We pay on the average about $55 to play and keep a roof over our heads. We buy our own equipment, which is not cheap. We buy our own uniforms. We pay our own travel. We pay for childcare and all the wonderful things. But because we know we're part of the community, we recruit in the community, we're hustling the community for airtime on television, to promote our bouts, we're on Facebook, we're on tour, we're everywhere. If you haven't met a derby girl, shame on you. We also give a fair amount of money back to local charities. I actually get to have the privilege in my league of organizing the charity events that we do. And it's pretty amazing that we know we're part of the community in which we support, and we need to keep supporting them. So that's what made it different from the olden days. The second way is the investment in the skaters. And before, they didn't care. If you read old roller derby girls, they didn't care. They were used and abused and deal with it. Now there are blogs and posts on what to do if you're a new skater, what to do if you're an old skater, what to do if you're a skater that's coming back after pregnancy, what to do if you still want to skate but your life is falling apart. Why did you join Derby? I don't know, it was great. And so you have quotes like this from the grave little toaster, where she basically says, I know, we'll get into Derby names in a sec, but that she basically says she knows of no other sport that she has done that she's gotten as much out as she's given. And that includes busted noses and busted knees. The second best example of this is my friend Elise. She just started playing roller derby, and she started because of this question. She asked herself, what do you do when you're 40 years old and diagnosed with MS? You join the roller derby, of course. Pretty gutsy, and so when she tried out, we were like, are you sure you want to do this? And she was like, heck yeah, I'm sure. I'm really going to do this. And her reason for doing this was she was building up her body because she knew eventually it would fail her, and she wanted to be strong. And she wanted to be around people that knew that she was strong and that she was determined and she was gonna live through this. And she wanted to know, as she puts it, if I ended up in an emergency room, it's because I took an elbow from another team's jammer, not because my body betrayed me. So roller derby has some issues that it's still dealing with. And one of the first issues that it took was the look of roller derby and the names. I'm Jana Costin, and derby names began with your desire to keep a certain sense of anonymity. We didn't know that roller derby was gonna last, and we didn't know that our friends and families and employers were gonna be very cool. In fact, I did not tell my boss I played roller derby. He found out from someone else. Because you don't want to be that person, like I don't want to sit next to her in staff meeting. And so they're great. They were fun. A skater by the name of Ginger Snap in Derby Life magazine said, they were great names. They were like twists on sports names and puns, and it was great. And they sort of, but then they seriously took a decidedly dark turn. Thus says Jana Costin. But they even took a darker turn because they began, as Ginger Snap puts it, to proclaim your love of pot and or Jaeger. Or they began to be actually kind of offensive to other people. So there's a desire to actually sort of clean up our act in terms of derby names. And some leagues have actually moved to skate without derby names. You skate under your real name. And so it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing about, in terms of if you are a male skater and you have a very misogynistic name, is that appropriate? If you have a name, what do you do? And can you be taken seriously as a skater? Can you be taken seriously as an official? Because our officials also have derby names. The second area of derby to take a hit was the look of derby. So derby began as pretty much a theatrical effort. We wore funny outfits. And it was great because it sold tickets. If you put a girl in some fishnets and a tutu, people will probably pay money to see her. But it quickly developed into a sport. We really train long and hard. I have an hour of off-skate workouts. I have about 8 hours of practice today, and that's just a week. And that's just me. I am a home team skater. I do not skate on a travel team. We actually skate with injuries and problems that would send most professional athletes to the disabled list. We deal with sprains and strains and bruises the size of hubcaps to play this sport. And so people rightly ask, why would we be willing to sacrifice that legitimacy and effort to wear fishnets and garter belts and tutus and sequins? So these are some of the issues that derby is dealing with. And where this comes into play is remember that this is a sport that was revived by women for women, in which women control when, where, how, and why we play. So it becomes an issue of who do you let under the tent and what rules do you change? We now have junior roller derby. We are literally role models. And so what does that mean for when we pick a name or we pick a look? What are we doing to the next generation? I mentioned before, there's men's roller derby. They have their own association, but do we play with them in conjoined bouts? Because sometimes it's really difficult. Do you want to skate with the skater that's name is Ref Hypnol or Rose Hypnol because he thinks that's funny? and not offensive. So, and what do you do when the women that now play roller derby don't look anything like the founders of roller derby? The vagine regime. These are possibly some of the coolest ladies out there. I would gladly play with them in a heartbeat. They are amazing. And they do queer roller derby. And there's a movie coming out about them. And if you see it, look it up. It's totally worth the promo. It's awesome. So we're still dealing with those issues. And given that for pretty much an unpaid living, what we do is take hits, I think we'll be okay. And I think there's some longevity left in derby. But I have 3 lessons for museums from the derby community. The first one is get low. And we say this all the time in derby because we mean when you're in a low stance, you can take a hit. You can survive a storm. You rely on your core muscles to get you through what you need to get through. And it's the same for museum. If you're relying on your core mission and not doing things outside that core mission and getting yourself in all sorts of tangles, you will be able to survive different types of hits, financial and whatnot. The second lesson is be nimble. This skater here is doing the coolest move ever. It's called jumping the apex. You actually jump across the track to avoid blockers. And we say be nimble because it's easier if you're moving your feet to move side to side, and it's easier to take advantage of an opening when it's given to you. So if you're nimble and you keep yourself running relatively smoothly and quickly and being able to respond to visitors and the community, public, and press, you'll be able to take advantage of those situations as they present themselves and score a few points as well. And the last lesson is work with a partner. We always say, find your buddy, be your buddy. We do a lot of partner work in roller derby because we know that games aren't won by just one skater. They're won by a team, and especially a team working effectively. And if you've identified your partner the moment you step out there, you will be more successful. You'll be even more successful if you stay with your partner because that's who has your back. Just like your community partners, your funding partners, and even those you work with have your back. So those are the 3 lessons I'd like to leave with you guys with derby. And with that, I'll call off the jam.